I'm Steve Gaynor, the Community Coordinator for socialbizug.org, and I am delighted today to have Mr. Andy Pedisich. And am I pronouncing that right, Andy?
It's slightly off. It's Pedisich.
Pedisich.
Like Milosevic or something like that, you know.
Wondered that for years, actually. I have Andy as our member of the month, and I'll bet Andy is a familiar face to a lot of people. He's been in this space for a long time and is one of our gurus. So, Andy, thank you for taking the time to talk with me today.
You're quite welcome. It's a good day to be doing this right before a holiday weekend, so we're getting ready to bolt any second. That's the bottom line.
That's my plan. All right, so let's get this show on the road. So, Andy, let me start with your elevator resume. What do you do? Who do you work for, if you can say? Just give me your basic job description.
Okay. Well, officially, title-wise, I'm actually president of Technotics, Inc., which is the company that I started 17 years ago. And we're a small kind of a company that deals with customers that range from 26 people to 15 or 20,000 people. We do a whole small business, medium business, larger business kind of an offering. We started out way back when. I say we because Rob Axelrod is my business partner, and he's been with the company for 12 years. And we started out working with IBM products, Lotus Notes and Domino, and we've expanded that now, and we have even more offerings, more service level offerings that we put out there, working with Google and working with Microsoft. So we've done that over the years where we've kind of expanded it. My job as president is to make sure everything's working okay, making sure that we continue to have our subscription to IBM Business Partners group, and making sure that we dot all our I's and cross all of our T's on business contracts, which is really important. But in addition to that, I'm in the trenches every day because I do consulting work and development work, administrative work every day. Roll out, sit in my office, work on it the whole day, you know, and that's really what I do. I think what that really comes down to is half of the time I'm working on technology and half of the time I'm working with people, you know, and half of the time I'm actually an English major by degree. And what I find is 50% of my time I'm explaining to people how things work, and the other 50% of the time I'm actually doing the technical things. You know, that's the way it boils down. But it's a good combination, and even after all these years, whoops, did that screen just go blank on you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
that was my screensaver kicking in. No. I think that the business has been nice to us, and I still enjoy doing it. And I consider that you know you're in the right business if somebody can give you a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning, ask you a really hard question, and after you answer it, you can go back to sleep. You know, that's how I know that you know when you have a good job, because it just goes, it's natural, it's part of you. So yeah, that's the way it's been for me, you know, for all these years. And in addition to Rob working with me, my wife Linda, who usually sits right to my right here, also works with me, and we work together all day long, which some married couples that I've run into have said, how do you stand doing that all the time? But really, we get along quite well, so it works out pretty well. Okay. So mostly consulting work with administrative type deals. A lot of development work, both in the space of Lotus Script and on a little bit of PowerShell, and just overall migrations and consolidations. We're still doing business with that kind of thing after all these years.
Andy, that's awesome. I don't think I've ever heard a better description of what a good job is. And you're right, being able to be woken up 2 in the morning, answer a question, and go back to sleep. Yeah.
And not be so angry about the person calling you, you know, because it upsets your mind or whatever. I go, yeah, right, whatever, you know, hang up. It's fine.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm also glad that you mentioned Rob Axelrod. I just met Rob today in a conference call. As you obviously know, we have a webcast coming up with yourself and Rob. That's on the 28th?
Thursday? Yeah, I think it's Thursday.
Yeah, next Thursday. So anyone watching this recording, if you haven't seen, if you can see the webcast live, and if you can't, we will definitely have it. I will have it posted up on the website as well.
Yeah, definitely come. It's going to be the worst practices of going to the cloud, and we got a million stories, so it should be fun.
And I saw that title, and I thought, have they been looking over my shoulder? All right, well, so speaking of that, can you describe to me a recent challenge that you had at work and how you overcame it?
Yeah, and it's more of a general kind of a challenge than the specific challenge of something facing me. In doing what we do, and I know a lot of the technologists out there will agree with this, people rarely ask me to do something that I already know how to do. It's just one of those things. So the biggest challenge to me on a daily basis is trying to determine which things that are out there I should actually keep up with, because there's a wide breadth of disciplines and techniques and things that you can know about technology that will let you move forward. But trying to pick out which ones are going to remain active as you move forward is a very, very challenging thing. So typically somebody calls me up and they say something like, yeah, I got a problem with a XPages app, and I don't know where it is. Can you go into our environment and check it out? And even though I'm not like I had to become an XPages expert pretty quickly, but even though I am not an XPages guy, I will still do the research. I'll still be able to go out and look for the answers on the web. And my favorite response when somebody asks me a relatively simple question is to let me Google that for you. Have you ever seen that app, Let Me Google That For You? If you go up on the web and you actually look for Let Me Google That For You, it'll let you type in the name of something you're searching for. And then what you do is you send the link to somebody who has asked you a simple question. And the link actually fires up Google and actually types in the thing that they asked and then gives them a search result of what that was. So that's
Very cool.
my favorite way of answering. It's a little bit, being a wise guy answering a question like that. But nonetheless, that's still something that I do. And all the stuff that we learn is fleeting, as technologists. And this makes it extremely challenging. And I'll give you a couple lightweight examples. DBase 2 and DBase 3. I used to program in both of those languages. The third-party, revolutions of the databases, and I'm still programming, and I'm not still programming. I used to program in Paradox years ago. I did a bit of stuff on the iSeries and the AS400, and with each progression, with each evolution of the kind of things that I'm doing, the old things that I do are not there anymore. They just go away, and I have to completely revamp and get into a new thing. So my brain is constantly looking for what to do next and how to go about actually doing that. And it's not always easy, because you're challenged also by keeping up on a day-to-day basis with what your customers need and what your clients need. And I got so frustrated by this thing of not being able to properly plan my future because of all the changes that one year I just decided out of the blue that I was going to take Italian. I was going to take Italian, a college-level Italian course. And I took a year of Italian, and it was great because, something? They still use Italian now, and it's great. I can actually go onto an Italian newscast on TV, and I can still understand what they're talking about. Well, I do the same thing with French. I do a trivia contest, thing, one of those crazy ones where you're late at night and you finally want to go to bed, but you can't, so you play trivia. And I've gotten to the point where I play the French version, and I play the French version at like 11 o'clock our time, so that all of the smart French people have already gone to bed, and then I can really clean up on trivia with the French people that are still up. So it's just wonderful. So learning a foreign language is a good thing to do if you really want to learn something that's not going to go away. And even then, it changes, modifies somewhat. But that's the most challenging thing that I find is keeping up.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I agree. I've always felt that, for lack of a better term, computer programmers stay on top of most things. Sometimes more than anyone else, because we're forced to learn new stuff almost on a daily basis, and it does keep you sharp. Okay, so my next question is a little bit involved. Please forgive me on that. But now, you've been our guru for a long time, way back when we were Lotus User Group and now the socialbizug.org. And in one of your last posts on the site, titled Making Critical Log Content Accessible to Technical Terms, now you talk about how valuable the server logs are in tracking down a problem, but you also talk about how annoying it is that you can't search them or search them completely. Can you give us a recap of that article? Tell us how you make these logs searchable. What are the logs to look for, and any tips you might have in tracking down a problem?
Sure. Big order, but that's what I do every day. The server logs, Domino server logs, is what we're talking about here, and they have an enormous amount of information in them. And I'm always shocked when somebody has a problem on site in a domain or whatever, and I say to them, "Have you looked in the logs yet?" And they go like, "Well, no," because you dig in, and it's going to tell you an awful lot about what the environment looks like and what's actually happening. So that's my primary way of getting there. Unfortunately, when people have server logs, they tend to let them grow fairly big for the most part. And that makes them incredibly difficult to just page through and look at all the entries as you're paging through them. And I'm pretty good at that because I have this ability to spot the changes in a pattern that's scrolling by me very, very fast and pick out things. And as an example of that, I'm really good at finding small change in the streets because I'll be walking up and down the streets and I'll see 10, 15 feet away, I'll see a dime on the street and I'll go, "Oh, a dime." And my wife will go, "That's great. Now in your whole life, you've actually found $5 on the street. This is wonderful. You're making us rich. Please stop it." So, but this log, generally speaking, people don't full text index the log because it takes some power away from the server. You really don't want to preoccupy the server with a task that you're only going to really need once in a while for diagnostic purposes. So what I like to do is to make a local replica, and this is really what I do. I make a local replica of a server log, and I full text index that, and then it doesn't affect the operations of the server, it doesn't affect anything else, and I can beat this copy up all I want. And the worst that's going to happen is it's going to get a couple of days old, and I'll have to replicate it back down to my own system. And of course, I never delete anything from it or anything like that. I know what I'm doing with it. So that's a really good way to cope with the fact that you can't full text index the logs up on the servers to do that. Because if you just search a view without full text indexing, you really don't get all of the results that you think you got. I mean, it would be a challenge in court to prove that you actually got everything if it really wasn't full text index to begin with. So that's one of the things. One of the other logs, though, is, in fact, there's a bunch of other logs, and they are in the IBM Technical Support Directory on the server. Oh. Copious logs in there, especially one called the console.log. And the console.log is a recording of everything that goes by on the console into a text file out on the disk of the server. That provides really high quality information, especially when you're dealing with server crashes and stuff, because where the server log might actually stop recording the important events that are happening, the console log keeps going even after the server log has hung for some reason. So what you might get out of the console log is the famous last words of the server right before it went down that weren't even recorded in the server log. And it might give you a good clue as far as why something has actually stopped. Because that's what we do. We play with clues all day. So we've got the console log, and plus there are X pages logs and a lot of other logs that are in that IBM Technical Support Directory. And the challenge really is the fact that the server guys don't give the Domino guys operating system level access to get to the IBM technical support directory on the Domino server. Nobody's in their right mind is going to let a guy like me just write right off the streets to see this stuff. They do, but sometimes it's a challenge for me because I don't know Unix and Linux as well as I know the Windows operating system, so I'm a little bit clumsy about moving around. So on those operating systems, it's a little bit more difficult for me to actually get access and get in there than it is on a Windows-based system, where it's very much easier. So to cope with that, I found this application. I can't remember the guy's name, but it's in the blog who actually wrote the application. It's called the Log File Reader, and it's a notes application, an X-Pages application that you stick onto the server, and it accesses the IBM technical support directory and breaks out the console logs and all the rest of the X-Pages logs and all the rest of the logs that are in there so that they become visible to an individual, an administrator, or a support person through a browser. And they never have to have additional rights to be able to go and see the content of these logs. So it's called Log File Reader, and it's downloadable from openntf.org. Great application, and I totally recommend it to anybody that's out there, especially if you have X-Pages apps, because the X-Pages guys probably are not going to be allowed to access the Domino server's IBM technical support directory either, and that way they can actually see what's going on with their applications. So that's my recommendation as a whole. Local copy of the log.nsf and the log reader to get to everything else, probably everything else that you're going to need.
And did you say the log reader is through a browser? Is that through a browser?
Yes, yeah, it's through a browser. So you don't even need a notes client to be able to access it. You can just go to your browser, spark it up, give it the file name, and it just breaks it up very nicely into different views. It's really nice.
That's awesome. Whoever thought of that? Kudos.
This guy that wrote it, he's great. I wish I could remember his name, but go up on socialbiz.org, take a look at my blog because it says who it is right in there. And of course, it's all over his application too when you download it. The guy seems to be a really nice guy, and he did a great job of programming this app, so I totally recommend it.
All right, so we've been a little technical here through this interview. Let's lighten up a little bit. What do you do to relax? What do you like to do to have fun?
I got two things I do to relax. One is this, which may not make any sense, but this is a cat toy, okay? And I've got probably dozens of them lying around the house because I have 3 rescue cats in the house. And I spend all my evenings with my family and my rescue cats. That's really the solid way to do it. And they generally like to get in my way and sit on my lap when I'm working. They're not here today because I shoot them out. But generally speaking, they're my favorite things. But when I really wanted to let it out and actually do some relaxing, reminder on my screen, sorry. What I really want to do when I relax is to go out and see some live music. And I've been doing this for years. First concert I went to in Philadelphia was King Crimson, way back when. First one I went to at the Fillmore East in New York City was Jefferson Airplane. So I go way, way back with concerts. But my wife and I have kept up with this ever since we were much younger, and we still go out to shows all the time. She likes to go out to Broadway shows, and I love that too, because she was a theater major and she really knows her stuff. But I really enjoy going out and seeing some live music. It really, it settles me out, makes me feel really good, makes me smile because I see the artistry in front of me, the light shows and what have you. I would say that of all the live shows that I've seen, Pink Floyd was excellent. But one that really blew me away was when we saw Nine Inch Nails for the first time. They actually opened for Jesus and Mary Chain at a very small club in Philadelphia. And since then, it was the Pretty Hate Machine album that we were actually listening to at the time. And as I move forward there, we've also been to like Made in America concerts, and we tend to go to a lot of those. And there's this place in Philadelphia called Union Transfer that was formerly a restaurant called the Spaghetti Factory. And they converted it into a concert hall, and it's like you stand up for the whole concert. But you get to see great little bands, like Sufjan. I think we saw Sufjan Stevens No, so Sufjan at the Academy of Music, Sufjan Stevens. So that's the kind of band we're listening to these days. Listen to a lot of Beck. Listen to a band called Animal Collective. Have you heard of Animal Collective?
No.
No. Yeah, well, we've seen them 3 times already. We've seen them outdoors 2 years ago, and then 2 nights in a row at Union Transfer. And the thing that's so cool about Union Transfer in Philadelphia is that the price to get in is like $25, $25-$30, rather than $50 or $80 a ticket, the way it is when you see somebody at an arena show. But you can see up-and-coming bands and people that you've only heard about maybe on independent radio and indie radio, and it really makes it nice. So we've seen a lot of Animal Collective, a lot of a band called Churches, which is VRCHES. They put a V in their name so that when you searched for them, it didn't come up with a bunch of churches. They actually had a V in there. And they're a really good pop band from Scotland. So this is what we do. We go out and we explore. Linda says to me, Isaac, who is our youngest son, pointed out that this band's pretty good live. I think we should see him. I go, I'm in. Get tickets. We get them, and we're out for the evening. Very, very pleasant. Great way to relax. Great way to really just let your hair down and be in the moment with all that. Very nice. So that's the big thing that I do. But I spent the last couple of evenings going to sleep listening to Beethoven and Mozart as I was falling asleep at night. So I still have the whole collection. I still listen to jazz. I still listen to Dave Brubeck and Miles Davis. I'm just addicted to that whole crazy music scene. It's a lot of fun.
Andy, that all sounds wonderful.
It's great. And when I go to a show, I show up at the show, and the people at the door say, "Hey, are you here to pick up your kids?"
Oh!
And we say, "No, we are our kids." It's easy. So we're faced with that,
Well, listen, please say hi to your wife for me. I was a theater major as well.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. So I
was an English major. I'm an English major, and I ended up here, and now you're a theater major, and here you are.
And here I am, exactly.
Proving your degree actually is worth it.
I know from whence she came. So, all right, we're down to it now, Andy. This is the most important question of the interview. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What is your favorite movie and why?
It's so super easy, and it's Blade Runner.
Really?
Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. I have a tendency to overwatch things that I like. Tom Cruise Live, Die, Repeat, which is a more recent movie. It's been on cable for probably 2 weeks. Maybe I've seen it 20 times since it's been on. So I tend to do that. With Blade Runner, I've absolutely lost count of the number of times that I've seen it, because it had to be in like the late 90s when it came out. Yep. And it still holds up. The special effects still hold up. The storyline still holds up about robots who become self-aware, who have reached that cognizant point, and how they handle death in general, and that's a very important aspect. Now, in addition to that, we have Blade Runner, and we have the other Ridley Scott movies, Alien, okay, and Prometheus. What I understand about all these 3 movies is that they're going to be all tied together. Is that from Blade Runner, you'll be able to see a clear connection into Alien, and from Alien, we already have a clear connection to Prometheus. So Ridley Scott's next movie is going to be something that pulls together his environment of movies over the last decade. I'm really looking forward to it, and I spend a lot of drive time when I'm just tooling around, humming to myself, trying to think of what kind of connections I could actually make between people and events that are in those 3 or 4 movies. So I'm very excited about it. But yeah, Blade Runner. And it's amazing to me because when Blade Runner came out, we really did not have DVDs, didn't have anything streaming. When I saw Blade Runner, it was the last time I was going to see Blade Runner for several years, It's like when I was a kid and we went to see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I wasn't going to see that movie again for 3 years until Disney released it again.
Right.
But now this stuff is everywhere. So very exciting to me. Blade Runner is going to have a sequel. Actually, Blade Runner is going to have a sequel, and so is Prometheus. And I'm hoping they tie them together on the back end somehow.
I just read this thing. Of course, I can't think of the actor's name. He plays one of the robots. He has white hair, and he dies.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
All right. He ad-libbed that entire death scene, which I did not know. But the whole speech that he gives is all ad-libbed.
Oh, you're talking about Rutger Hauer.
There you go.
In the end of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was a great job, and that's why it's fun to know more about how the movie is constructed, because you can get to appreciate that stuff.
Yeah.
But when they released it in the theaters, they turned it into a relatively tepid movie. But the original version is just gory as heck, and very, very gut wrenching at times. It's great. So. That's my favorite cut. Although there are a lot of, I love Young Frankenstein. I love comedy. For serious, paying attention to what's going on, I like Blade Runner.
All right. I think I have wasted enough of your time. Andy, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Quite welcome. Thank you so much for including me in socialbiz.org.
It is a pleasure. I hope you have a wonderful holiday weekend. And to everyone out there, I will see you on a site. Bye-bye, everybody.